Book number 1, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, An Inquiry into Values by Robert Maynard Pirsig. And yes, hello, I think you noticed the difference. The thing is, this isn't really a business book. If anything, it's a story. And there's a big gap between when you talk about business literature that has no plot or story, because you can dissect business literature, you can extract some interesting ideas and talk about them in the way I'm doing now. And in general, after you hear my conclusions, you won't lose interest in picking up the book the next day, if you liked it, of course, and reading it from cover to cover. As for the story, it's more complicated. It's like, for example, taking all the Harry Potter books and telling you about them, about a little wizard who ultimately defeats the evil sorcerer. That is, all the magic that you experience with the main character from beginning to end disappears, and that's sad. And at the moment, the Zen of art, riding a motorcycle, is precisely a story. I want to say in advance that this book is not here by accident. The fact is that when I consciously and confidently took up books, I was 18 years old, and I understood that if I read the same business literature all the time, my brain would harden, because sooner or later you need to take a breath of fresh air. You need to absorb new information and take it from different genres, since business literature is, for the most part, similar. The only difference is that there are new characters, new events, and a new time. At the same time, short stories, modern prose, or whatever else allows you to develop your imagination. And this is very important for an entrepreneur, because a successful entrepreneur is not a portfolio that contains a lot of different information that he can pull out again and again. Everything happens a little differently, at least in my view of the world. If I am faced with a difficult task, I first need to approach the solution creatively. Because if, I have a cash flow gap, what should I do? Well, I remember the book Thoughts and the Rich, and the author advised doing this. Well, no, of course, that's not how it works. That is, in any case, reading stories allows you to think differently. And this fantasy is, in essence, a little key to solving the problems I face time and time again. Yes, this book doesn't quite fit the criteria that I would recommend to everyone. It's an insanely difficult book. In general, when I picked it up, I was, of course, expecting a different result. It's a book about travel. But, as it turned out later, I read and cried. I cried and read. It's an insanely difficult book. You've probably heard of the author Nassim Nicholas Taleb. This author wrote a book called Anti-Fragile. He wrote a book called The Black Swan. And yes, Anti-Fragile is now sitting on my shelf. I'm really afraid to pick it up because it's so damn difficult. I remember how 3 years ago I opened it, read maybe 20 pages, and sat there with a blank stare because I didn't understand anything. And then I felt really upset because, come on, I read a lot, but for some reason I don't understand a damn thing. So I set a goal to grow into this book, and I started reading simpler literature. A year and a half ago, when I read The Black Swan, for example, I read and cried. It was difficult. But I don't know who these books are written for. Maybe for researchers or super smart people, which I don't consider myself to be. It's difficult reading. And Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is even more difficult and insidious, because when you pick up this book, there is completely different information written on the back. You plan to embark on a journey with the author. The author traveled across America on a motorcycle with his son. But the problem is that the further you got into the book, the more confusing it became. So complicated that the author simply takes you and immerses you, whether you want it or not, in his philosophical speculations. And they are so complex that, forgive me for the tautology, it is difficult for me to convey them. Because there are, for example, whole pages, probably 200, about quality. That is, the author discusses what quality is, and it's unpleasant to read. The thing is, there is business literature that is a hybrid. It's not quite a story, and at the same time it's about business. So you read it and think, wow, this is really authentic. More precisely, it's much easier to understand when you're not just reading some dry excerpts from, for example, a book called, Toyota Corporate Culture. It's a crazy boring book. You start biting your elbows on the second page. But books like The Goal of Continuous Improvement are a breeze to read because they're easy stories with cool business ideas that you can implement right away. But Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance isn't like that. Just imagine, the author talks about how he rides from one point to another, and then, without asking you if you're ready for it, he plunges you into his philosophical thoughts, which are so complex that you get lost and fall out of the story. And most likely the main problem is that there are no images that you as a reader can relate to. That is, understand me correctly, we pay more attention to details that are somehow related to our lives. That is, for example, a story that does not concern us at all, a story that we cannot use in our lives in any way, is perceived as an echo and very distant. And I caught myself thinking that I had read 2 pages and understood nothing. And I had to go back to rethink the idea. But the most important thing is when you don't understand why the author told you this or that. For example, yes, this is not a spoiler, but I need to give an example from the book. The author and his son decide to go hiking in the mountains. And in my view of the world, I imagined that if you're going to talk about philosophy here, then surely something will happen when you climb the mountain. But damn it, nothing happens. That is, it seems that 50 pages are devoted to describing how the character, the main hero of the book, climbs the mountains with his son, and attention, nothing happens. That is, nothing changes dramatically. Either I'm overly romantic in that I imagine that if you, damn it, take it upon yourself to go up the mountain, then you should at least come back a slightly different person. For example, with a book like 7 Years in Tibet, I expected there to be some kind of wow effect, that the person would definitely change. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. I even thought that maybe I wouldn't go to the mountains, or rather, I just set myself a goal to go to the mountains this year. And then I realized that somehow 2 authors couldn't get anything meaningful out of this trip, and that upset me terribly. To sum up, this book is not the kind of literature you should take to the seaside, read on the beach, and treat superficially. It is an incredibly deep book, and, to be honest, I was not ready for this depth. I felt like a stupid idiot, and I still feel that way to this day. Because, on the one hand, it seems that you need to reread such literature to understand all the concepts. But on the other hand, everything written there seems completely unnecessary to me, and the author, acting as a little super genius like Jimmy Neutron, himself forgets that you need to be in the moment, here and now. That is, it would seem that the philosophical idea is that you need to look at the same things from different angles. But all this is meaningless when life passes you by, when you live in the past all the time, when you remember that, oh, my parents raised me badly, I got a bad education at school. My environment was so bad that it held me back from success. Living in the past is always bad, and it seems that the author is trying to explain this, but it is so veiled and so burdened with additional unnecessary baggage that you forget about it, and the author forgets about it. The author is searching and racing after something distant, he is always going somewhere, but he forgets this important truth. Therefore, unfortunately, the only thing I understood is that no matter how stupid or smart a person is, it is, of course, all subjective. The most important thing is to be in the moment, here and now. And let's say that theoretically this is understandable, and now you can frown and say, I already knew all this. But unfortunately, a lot of people know this but can't apply it to their lives. And look at the calendar right now, it's June 31st. It seems like the last month of summer is left. I don't know about you, but that scares me. And I understand that you have to live in the here and now, and that's my advice to you. So, I've exhaled, The next story will most likely be in 3 books. I am delighted to immerse myself in new business literature. Bye for now.